Long ago, before the kingdom of Eldris was built on gold and pride, it was a land ruled by balance, between light and darkness, man and magic. But one betrayal shattered that harmony forever. The tale begins with Queen Arlena, a woman once beloved by the people, whose jealousy toward a powerful sorceress led to the destruction of both their hearts. Arlena accused the sorceress Elara of witchcraft when her own child was born, frail and disfigured. In rage and grief, Nemera's final words echoed through the castle. "Your sons will wear the beast within, until one learns to be loved not for his face, but for his soul." That night, thunder tore open the skies. The palace burned, and the first prince of Eldros vanished into the mountains, half man, half beast. Generations later, the curse remains. Each royal heir born since that night bears the same fate. A monster's heart, sealed behind a human mask, doomed to hide in darkness once his powers awaken. The people whisper of the monster prince, born from the current king's line. They say he lives in the North Tower, a place forbidden to all. Servants hear growls through the stone walls. Travelers who wander too close claim to see glowing eyes in the mist. The king, weary and aging, hides his shame from the world. No portraits of his son exist. No betrothals are spoken of. The royal court lives in uneasy silence, as though pretending the prince does not exist will erase the curse that shadows them all. And yet, in the heart of the North Tower, behind silver bars and candlelight, a man sits in solitude. He is no child. He is a prince with the mind of a scholar and the soul of a storm. His name is Prince Kale, the heir who must never be seen. Every mirror in his chamber is shattered. Every night he listens to the wind whisper outside and wonders what it feels like to be loved by eyes that do not flinch. He dreams not of thrones, but of freedom, and the faint, foolish hope that perhaps, one day, someone might see him. The people of Eldros have never seen their princes' faces. For generations, each royal heir has been presented to the kingdom only once, at birth, before being spirited away into isolation. From that day forward, the heir wears a mask of silver and bone, said to shield the kingdom from the sight of their cursed form. Over time, myth and fear grew stronger than truth. Children are warned never to stare at the royal banners after midnight, for they believe the eyes of the cursed princes stare back. Priests perform purification rites every year to contain the beast's wrath. Some even whisper that the princes are no longer human at all. The current prince, Kale, has lived 24 years behind those shadows. To the people, he is a ghost. To the palace, a secret. Only a handful of attendants are allowed into the North Tower, and even they dare not meet his eyes. The servants call him the Faceless Heir. But not all stories are born of truth. In the privacy of his prison-like chambers, Prince Kale studies ancient books and forbidden scrolls, searching for the meaning behind his curse. Every reflection is forbidden, all mirrors shattered, all windows barred. But sometimes he catches his faint outline in candlelight, the twisted ridges of skin along his jaw, the faint shimmer of scales under the moon. He remembers the first time his reflection frightened even him, the night his power awakened when his father saw the mark on his face and ordered, "No one must look upon you again." Since that night, Kale has lived unseen, his humanity fading with each passing season. But he still dreams, not of breaking the curse, but of feeling sunlight on his face without fear. And in the corners of prophecy, in the forbidden pages of Nemera's old curse, there is a line that haunts him. When love dares to wed the monster, the beast shall remember his name. A forgotten promise, a doomed prince. And somewhere, far from the palace, the woman destined to change his fate has no idea her path is already written in the stars. High above the kingdom, beyond walls of blackened stone and curling ivy, stands the obsidian keep, the cold heart of the royal castle. Its highest tower pierces the mist like a blade, and within it lives Prince Lucian, the monster heir whose face no one remembers. It is said that he rules through whispers, that his orders are delivered by servants too afraid to look upon him. The king has long since withdrawn from power, leaving Lucian to govern unseen. His decrees are fair yet ruthless, written in elegant script and sealed with a claw-marked crest. No one dares question his will. No one dares seek an audience. When disputes arise among the nobles, the royal steward claims, "His Highness has spoken," and the court bows, though none have heard his voice in years. The people's fear is a living thing. Mothers hush crying children with tales of the prince who punishes liars with a glance. Merchants cross themselves when lightning flashes over the tower, murmuring, "The monster prince is watching." But in truth, Lucian's isolation is not power. It is punishment. Inside the tower, beneath flickering candlelight, he sits alone at a long marble table meant for 20 men. His hands, strong but scarred, trace the edges of old letters from a mother long dead, the last person who ever looked at him without fear. Each night he walks the silent halls, his reflection hidden beneath a mask of silver and onyx. Beneath that mask lies a face cursed by both man and magic, a face that mirrors the pain of his ancestors, marked by faint scales that glimmer like the night sky. The people call him monster, but his curse is far crueler than they imagine. For every year he lives unseen, his humanity fades a little more. And sometimes, when the wind howls through the tower and the world sleeps below, Lucian whispers to the darkness, "If love could break the curse, then why does no one dare to see me? Unseen, unloved, unforgiven." The monster prince rules in silence, not by choice, but by exile. Across taverns, markets, and moonlit courtyards, rumors of Prince Lucian are told in trembling voices. The people of Eldros no longer speak his name openly. They call him the Stone Gazer, the Faceless Heir, the Beast who watches. Children grow up believing that to meet his eyes is to feel your soul turn cold, that his cursed gaze turns hearts into stone, freezing them mid-beat. Old nursemaids tell stories of foolish maids who tried to glimpse the prince's face through keyholes or mirrors. Each tale ends the same. The girl vanishes by dawn, her body found pale and lifeless, her lips still parted in terror. Whether truth or superstition, the fear has become legend. In the great city square, a stone statue stands, a young woman kneeling in prayer. Some say she was Lucian's first betrothed, turned to stone on their wedding night. The statue's face is sorrowful, frozen mid-cry, her hand forever reaching toward an unseen lover. It is said the prince keeps that statue in his tower now, as both warning and grief. Even the palace guards, hardened men trained in silence, refuse to meet the prince's eyes when delivering messages. They kneel, heads bowed, until he dismisses them with a single word. In truth, no one knows what lies behind the mask. Some claim he hides fangs and eyes like molten gold. Others believe the curse twisted his features beyond human shape. But behind the legend lies a deeper truth, one no one dares to speak. The curse does not turn others to stone. It turns him to stone, bit by bit, year after year, from within. His heart grows colder with every fearful glance, his soul hardening under the weight of their terror. And yet, the prophecy whispers that only a woman who looks upon him without fear can melt the stone within. A woman not yet found. A woman who would rather die than look away. Years of silence had turned the royal palace into a tomb. No laughter echoed through its marble halls. Even the servants spoke in whispers as if afraid their voices might awaken the beast in the tower. The curse had long been accepted as fate, until the land itself began to suffer. The crops withered. The rivers ran thin. Famine crept across the villages like a slow, suffocating fog. The priests declared it was the curse's toll, that the kingdom's soul was dying along with its hidden prince. Driven by fear and guilt, the aging King Aldrich, Lucian's father, summoned the council of nobles. His voice trembled as he addressed them in the grand hall, his crown heavy upon his graying head. "If the curse was born of love betrayed," he said, "then only love can break it. A murmur rippled through the court, hope mixed with horror. The king's eyes, once fierce, now burned with desperation. "Let it be known across the realm," he continued, his voice echoing against the marble pillars, "that any woman brave enough to wed my son, Prince Lucian of Eldros, shall be named queen, if she survives one full moon by his side." Gasps filled the chamber. Some nobles crossed themselves. Others smiled with greed. A reward beyond imagination. A crown, a throne, and power over all Eldros, but at a cost no one dared to pay. The proclamation spread like wildfire through towns and villages. Scrolls were nailed to doors, carried by heralds who shouted the decree in the streets. "The king seeks a bride for the monster prince. Survive the curse and you shall be queen." For weeks, suitors came and vanished. A noble woman from the east, gone before sunrise. A merchant's daughter, disappeared into the mist of the tower. Each attempt ended in silence until the people began to whisper again. No woman can survive him. Still, the king refused to revoke his decree. Desperation had replaced reason. He told himself he did it for the kingdom's sake, but in his heart, he knew it was guilt. Guilt for the son he had hidden. Guilt for the curse his bloodline carried. And somewhere, in a distant corner of Eldros, a young woman named Elara reads the decree on a crumpled parchment, her eyes narrowing, not in fear but in something far more dangerous. Resolve. The king's decree swept through the realm like a cold wind that extinguished every candle of hope. What was meant to summon courage only spread dread. In the farmlands, mothers clutched their daughters tighter. Fathers tore down the royal proclamations from the wooden gates, burning them before the children could read. The parchment's edges curled and blackened in the firelight as they whispered, "No crown is worth a cursed grave." In the cities, the noblewomen feigned illness, retreating behind silk curtains and locked doors. They sent letters filled with false condolences and trembling excuses. "My health cannot withstand such strain. My family forbids it." The peasants mocked the decree in hushed voices, calling it the king's last madness. Some said he wanted to sacrifice a maiden to the beast. Others believed he hoped to find a witch brave enough to break the spell. But in truth, no one dared to step forward. At the village markets, stories of failed brides spread like wildfire. One man claimed he'd seen a carriage return from the castle with blood on its wheels. Another swore that at night, you could hear the prince's growl echo through the northern mist, a sound that made horses rear and infants cry. A month in that tower, the villagers said, crossing themselves. Better to starve free than die a queen in chains. Soon, the proclamations hung tattered on the walls, ignored by all. The gold offered for survival tempted none. Even thieves spat at the idea of entering the monster's domain. The king's heralds rode farther each day, their voices hoarse from shouting promises no one would claim. And far from the palace, in a quiet mountain village where the fog kissed the rooftops, a young woman paused to read one of those forgotten scrolls. Her cloak was simple, her hands rough from labor, but her eyes, steady, intelligent, burning with quiet pain, lingered on the words. "Any woman who weds the prince and lives to see the next moon shall lift the curse and be crowned Queen of Eldros." She didn't flinch. She didn't laugh. She simply whispered almost to herself, "Then perhaps it's time someone stopped fearing him." Her name was Elara, and though she did not yet know it, the moment she read that decree, fate began to move. In a small windswept village at the edge of Eldros, far from the marble towers and royal decrees, lives Elara, the daughter of a healer. Her cottage sits at the end of a dirt path, lined with herbs, lavender, sage, and moonflower, plants her mother once tended with tender hands before sickness took her. The villagers know Elara not for wealth or beauty, but for her gentleness. When children fall ill, it is Elara they call. When old men cough through winter nights, she brings them broth and warmth. When others recoil from pain, she steps closer. Her hands smell of crushed mint and rosemary, her clothes always dusted with earth. Yet her presence carries something deeper, a quiet strength that steadies those around her. Since her mother's death, Elara has lived a life of service, trading remedies for bread, compassion for survival. But beneath her calm, there lingers something unspoken, a yearning for meaning beyond the endless cycle of sickness and sorrow. Sometimes when she walks through the forest gathering herbs, she speaks to the wind, as though it might carry her voice somewhere beyond the mountains. "Why must kindness be powerless?" she once whispered, pressing her hand to her heart. The villagers pity her but do not understand her. They see only a poor healer's daughter, not the quiet fire that lives beneath her calm. So when the royal decree reaches their town, nailed to the market gate, everyone laughs. The monster's bride, only a fool would go. Even gold won't save her from his curse. But that night, as Elara reads the parchment by candlelight, she thinks of all the suffering she's seen, the withered fields, the hungry children, the dying who whisper prayers for salvation. If the curse is the reason for the kingdom's pain, if breaking it could end their misery, then perhaps her life is not too great a price. She closes her eyes, remembering her mother's words before she died. The true healer does not fear what others run from, and with that, Elara makes a choice that will change not only her life, but the fate of Eldros itself. The year's harvest failed. The rains came late, and when they did, they drowned what little hope the earth had offered. Elara's father, once a respected healer like her mother, now sits frail by the hearth, his lungs weak, his hands trembling from years of mixing herbs and carrying others' burdens. The shelves that once brimmed with dried leaves and elixirs now stand bare. The villagers, just as poor as they, can no longer trade goods for cures. Debt collectors have begun to circle the cottage like vultures. Their voices echo through the thin wooden door. The king's tax is due. Pay or lose your home. That night, Elara tends to her father's coughing, her hands trembling as she wrings a damp cloth. The candle flickers low, casting long shadows over the parchment of the royal decree, the same one she thought she'd forgotten. Any woman who weds Prince Lucian and survives 1 month shall free the kingdom from the curse and inherit the crown. Her father looks up at her, weary eyes full of love and fear. "Don't you dare think of it, child," he whispers. "That curse has taken enough lives. No gold, no title is worth your soul." But Elara's gaze drifts to the cracked ceiling, where the rain leaks through in slow, steady drops. She remembers the starving faces in the market, the mothers who trade their wedding rings for a loaf of bread. The curse hasn't just taken lives, it has stolen hope itself. What if this is her chance? To heal the kingdom as her mother once healed the sick? What if this sacrifice means others won't have to suffer? At dawn, she stands before the village gate, cloak drawn tight against the cold. The townsfolk gather, murmuring as she approaches the royal envoy, the knights in black and gold armor who await any volunteer. "Name?" one asks, barely looking at her. "Elara of Hollow's Edge," she answers, her voice steady. "And you come willingly?" "I do." A hush falls over the square. Mothers gasp. Old men shake their heads. Someone mutters, "Another lamb to the slaughter." But Elara does not tremble. Beneath the gray sky, she lifts her chin, her eyes fierce with quiet resolve. She is not walking to her death. She is walking toward destiny. As the carriage doors close behind her and the wheels begin to turn, the village fades into mist. And somewhere far away, in the silent halls of the cursed castle, Prince Lucian stirs, as though he can feel her coming. The journey begins before sunrise. A silver mist clings to the ground like breath that refuses to fade. The hooves of the royal steeds drum against the damp earth, their rhythm echoing in the hollow quiet of the forest path. Elara sits inside a creaking carriage draped in black velvet, its windows shrouded with heavy curtains. 2 guards ride ahead, 2 behind. None speak. Their armor glints faintly in the half-light, engraved with the sigil of the royal house, a wolf's head crowned with thorns. The forest grows darker the deeper they ride. The trees twist into unnatural shapes, branches like skeletal hands clawing toward the sky. Ravens perch in silence, watching with eyes too intelligent, too knowing. A chill creeps through Elara's cloak. It's not just the cold, it's the sense of crossing a boundary between the living and something older, something waiting. At one point, the carriage lurches to a halt. A guard curses under his breath. "What is it?" Another asks. "Tracks," comes the reply. "Beast tracks. Fresh." Through the small slit of the window, Elara glimpses claw marks gouged into the mud, deep, unnatural, as though a creature far larger than any wolf had passed through recently. The guards exchange wary glances but press on. Soon, the mist thickens into a fog so dense it swallows sound itself. Even the horses grow uneasy, their ears twitching at every whisper of the wind. Then, out of the fog, it appears, the castle. It rises from the cliffs like a shadow carved into the mountain itself. Towers pierce the clouds, their tips jagged and dark, like spears reaching toward heaven. The gates are wrought iron, twisted into shapes that resemble faces, screaming perhaps or warning. Lightning flashes once across the sky, illuminating the great black banners that hang from the walls. They ripple faintly in the wind, bearing the same wolf's head crest. Only here, it bleeds silver. As the gates creak open, a long, mournful sound echoes through the valley. Inside, torches burn with a strange blue flame. "Welcome to Nightfall Keep," the captain mutters grimly. Elara steps down from the carriage, boots sinking into the cold, wet earth. The air smells of rain and old stone. Somewhere in the distance, a howl breaks the silence, long, haunting, and full of sorrow. For the first time, Elara feels the weight of what she's done. She isn't entering a palace. She's entering a curse made of walls and whispers. And high above, behind the windows of the tallest tower, Prince Lucian watches. Hidden in shadow, he feels the pull of something he doesn't yet understand. The scent of courage wrapped in mortal skin. The iron gates groan as they part, slow and ancient, like a creature long asleep stirring from its slumber. Their echo rolls through the valley, deep and hollow, as though the very stones of the castle remember the countless souls who passed through and never returned. Elara steps forward, and the air changes. The mist seems to glow faintly, carrying a bluish shimmer, neither day nor night. The world beyond the gates exists in a strange in-between, where sunlight cannot fully reach, yet darkness dares not rule. The courtyard stretches wide before her, paved with stones slick from eternal dew. Vines with silver-tinted leaves crawl up the black walls, glowing softly in the half-light. Pools of still water mirror the sky's ghostly hues, and from the cliffs beyond, waterfalls shimmer like falling starlight. It is haunting and heartbreakingly beautiful. Gargoyles perch on the parapets, wings half unfurled as if waiting to take flight. Their eyes glimmer faintly with the same blue flame that burns in the torches lining the path. Shadows move where there should be none, sliding across walls and vanishing before the eye can follow. Elara's breath catches. She had imagined a place of horror. But this is something else entirely. It's as though beauty and sorrow have been woven into the same thread, impossible to tell apart. A faint melody drifts from somewhere within, a lonely, wordless hum, echoing off the stone corridors. She can't tell if it's music or the wind whispering through hollow halls. As she walks, the gates close behind her with a deep final clang. The sound feels final, like a seal upon fate. One of the guards murmurs under his breath, "Once the gates close, no soul leaves without the master's will." Elara glances up toward the tallest tower. For just a heartbeat, she thinks she sees movement. A flicker of shadow behind the glass, watching her. The faintest chill runs through her spine. It's not fear this time, but something deeper. curiosity laced with destiny, half light, half night, half hope, half doom. She steps forward, knowing she has crossed the threshold of the ordinary world forever. The chapel within the castle is unlike any Elara has ever seen. It is vast but hollow, its vaulted ceilings rising into shadow, its stained glass windows dull with dust and time. Moonlight spills through the cracks instead of sunlight, painting silver veins across the stone floor. The air smells faintly of old incense and rain. No guests, no music. Only the echo of her footsteps and the low hum of the storm gathering outside. At the far end of the aisle stands Lucian, the monster prince. He is taller than she imagined, cloaked in layers of black and silver, the folds of his robe moving like mist itself. A silver mask hides his face entirely, molded smooth and expressionless, reflecting the candlelight in ghostly flashes. His gloved hands rest before him, still as marble. Only the faint rise and fall of his chest shows that he breathes. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, deep, and distant, like thunder heard across a mountain range. It resonates in the air and inside her chest, carrying both command and sorrow. "Elara of the healer's line," he says softly, the syllables tasting strange on his tongue. "Do you come willingly?" Her voice trembles, but her answer is steady. "I do." A flicker passes across the silver mask, perhaps a nod, perhaps a breath. No priest stands before them, only an ancient book laid open upon a stone pedestal. The words inscribed there glow faintly in blue fire, as Lucian recites the vows of the cursed line. Each word echoes through the hall like a tolling bell. Elara repeats them, though her heart pounds so loudly she can barely hear her own voice. When the final word is spoken, a strange warmth spreads through the air, a soft hum that makes the torches flicker and the walls tremble slightly. Then silence. The moment lingers, and she dares to look up, but the silver mask gives nothing away. No hint of a face. No human emotion. Instead of a kiss, he offers his hand, gloved, cold, and unyielding. When her fingers touch his, a spark jolts through her skin, brief and sharp, like lightning bottled beneath the surface. For a heartbeat, she swears she sees movement behind the mask. Not just eyes, but something ancient, vast, and caged. The binding is complete. The curse shifts faintly as if it stirs from its slumber, waiting. The doors close behind them, sealing her new fate. And just like that, Elara becomes the monster prince's bride, in a wedding of silence, shadow, and mystery. The heavy silence of the castle presses against Elara's heart like a living thing. Her new chambers are grand, impossibly so, with silk curtains that ripple though there's no wind, and candles that burn without ever melting down. Yet for all their beauty, the room feels hollow, as if warmth has been exiled from it long ago. The bed is draped in velvet, untouched. A fire flickers weakly in the hearth, but even its glow seems dim. Shadows move faintly along the walls, curling into shapes she doesn't recognize. She sits by the window, staring into the forest beyond the gates, black and endless under the pale moonlight. Somewhere far below, a wolf howls, low and mournful. The sound carries through the stone like a whisper meant only for her. Fear gnaws at her, not of death, but of the unknown, of the husband who hides behind a silver mask, of the curse that seeps into every breath of this place. A voice inside her begs her to run, to demand freedom, to flee while she still can. But another voice, quieter, stronger, whispers back, "You made a promise." Her family's faces flash before her eyes, her mother's trembling hands, her father's bowed head when she volunteered. The image steals her resolve. She didn't come here to surrender. She came to break something older and crueler than fear. She rises and walks to the mirror. Her reflection looks pale but fierce, eyes bright with defiance, chin lifted. "I will not run," she murmurs. "Even if fear consumes me, I will stay until the curse breaks." The words leave her lips like a vow to the very walls. As if in answer, A faint tremor passes through the castle, a deep echoing thrum that makes the air shiver. The flames in the hearth rise higher for an instant before settling again. It's as though the castle itself heard her. And somewhere, deep within its endless corridors, the monster prince, Lucien, lifts his head, sensing the change. For the first time in years, a human heart has spoken with courage inside these cursed walls. He doesn't smile, but behind his silver mask, his eyes burn with something almost forgotten. Hope. Days pass, or perhaps only nights. Time moves strangely within Lucien's castle. Elara begins to realize that nothing here behaves as it should. The castle breathes. Its stone corridors seem to pulse with faint life, as though veins of magic run through the walls themselves. When she walks the halls, her footsteps echo too long, carrying whispers that don't belong to her. Sometimes the doors open before she reaches them. Other times they refuse to budge, as if deciding whether she is worthy to enter. The mirrors are the worst. Every corridor holds one, tall, tarnished, framed in silver vines. When she passes, they shimmer faintly, as though reacting to her presence. Her reflection doesn't always match her movement. Sometimes it lags behind. Sometimes she catches a glimpse of something standing behind her, a tall shadow crowned in faint blue light, only to turn and find nothing there. The servants, if they exist, remain invisible. Meals appear quietly on her table, fresh flowers replace the wilted ones overnight, and her gowns, ripped, dusty or wet from exploring, are mended by morning. Yet she never hears a single voice, a single footstep other than her own. One night she hears a soft humming from down a corridor she's never seen before. Drawn to it, she follows until she reaches a heavy oak door carved with runes that glow faintly beneath her fingertips. When she touches it, the runes pulse like a heartbeat. Not yet. A whisper breathes from the wood. Elara stumbles back, her heart hammering. The voice is neither male nor female. It's old, layered, weary. She looks around, but no one is there. Only the faint laughter of wind slipping through unseen cracks. Back in her chamber, she tries to calm herself. But when she sits before her mirror, the candlelight flickers, and for just a second, her reflection smiles without her. A chill grips her. She touches the glass and the surface ripples like water. "You are not alone here," the mirror whispers faintly. She jerks her hand back, breath quick, heart pounding. Yet instead of terror, curiosity burns stronger. The castle is not cursed. It's alive, watching, waiting. And somehow, she senses it's testing her, to see if she truly belongs. The first night he comes, she doesn't hear him enter. No door creaks, no footsteps sound, only the faint stirring of the air, like a sigh moving through candlelight. Elara turns from the window, her heart quickening. The room feels different, denser, heavier, alive. And then, she hears his voice. "You shouldn't wander the west halls," he says quietly, his tone deep and low like velvet hiding thunder. The castle protects, but it also remembers. His words echo softly from the dark corner where the light doesn't reach. He stands there, half in shadow, the faint gleam of his silver mask catching the firelight. His clothes are black as midnight, his posture tall yet tense, as if restraining some great force within him. Elara swallows, her voice trembling slightly. "You move like smoke," she says, trying to hide her unease. "Do you always appear unannounced?" "I prefer the night," he answers. "It's easier to remain unseen." She wants to step closer, to see his eyes beneath the mask, but instinct tells her not to. There's a power about him that hums in the air, a wildness cloaked beneath control. Lucien stays at a distance, always in the shadows. Yet his presence fills the room, commanding and calm, sorrowful and strong. He asks about her life before the castle, her family, her village, her reason for accepting the curse. His questions are gentle, almost hesitant, as though he hasn't spoken to another soul in years. Elara answers honestly, though her gaze keeps drifting toward the silver mask. "Why hide?" she finally asks, her voice barely above a whisper. He is silent for a long time. The candles flicker, throwing thin threads of gold across the mask's smooth surface. "Because I am not meant to be seen," he replies at last, "not by anyone who wishes to live." The words hang heavy between them, thick with mystery and pain. Before she can speak again, the room grows cold. The shadows seem to swallow him whole, and with a faint rustle, he's gone. Only the echo of his scent remains. Rain, steel, and something older, like ancient forests and forgotten dreams. Elara sits by the dying fire long after he leaves, her heart caught between fear and fascination. Each night after that, he returns, always unseen, always masked, sometimes to speak, sometimes just to listen, and though she never truly sees him, his presence becomes the only constant in her world of whispers. As the nights pass, the fear that once shadowed Elara's every breath begins to fade. Lucian's presence, though cloaked in mystery, carries something she did not expect. Sorrow, a deep, lingering sadness that hangs in the air long after he's gone. She notices it in the smallest moments. When he speaks, there's a pause before his words, as though he measures each one carefully, afraid they might wound. When he listens, his voice softens like someone who once knew gentleness and lost it long ago. Sometimes he stands near the balcony as they talk, his gaze lost in the night sky where the moon hides behind drifting clouds. In those moments, Elara catches a stillness in him, not cold detachment, but aching loneliness. "You watch the stars often," she says once quietly. "Do they mean something to you?" "They're reminders," he replies, his voice distant, "of what was, and what I can never have again." He doesn't explain, but the way he turns away, the way his shoulders stiffen, tells her enough. He is not a monster by choice. He is a man burdened by something crueler than sin: isolation. Elara begins to see beyond the stories whispered in the kingdom. The beast she was told would devour her in madness instead speaks with careful restraint, as though terrified of breaking something fragile between them. One night she hears him playing a piano somewhere deep within the castle. The melody drifts through the corridors, slow, haunting, almost human in its yearning. She follows the sound, her bare feet silent on the marble, and pauses just outside the door. Through the crack she sees him, his back to her, fingers moving gracefully over the keys. The flickering candlelight catches on his silver mask, turning it to liquid moonlight. There's no rage in him now, only grief. She doesn't interrupt. Instead, she stands quietly, listening, until the last note fades into the dark. Back in her chamber, she whispers to herself, "He's not what they say." And in that quiet confession, something begins to shift inside her. Not love yet, but understanding. For the first time, Elara sees Lucian not as a creature cursed, but as a man imprisoned by sorrow too heavy to carry alone. The castle's endless corridors often lead Elara to places she doesn't mean to find. That evening, the air is thick with mist, the moon veiled by drifting clouds. She follows the faint sound of whimpers echoing through the lower halls, soft, pained cries that tug at her healer's instinct. She descends a spiral staircase she's never noticed before, her hand brushing cold stone as she goes. The air grows warmer, carrying the faint scent of earth, iron, and pine. Then at the end of the tunnel she sees it, an arched doorway half hidden by vines, light flickering from within. Elara peers inside. The monster prince is kneeling in the middle of what looks like an underground garden, wild and alive beneath the castle's foundations. Moonlight filters through cracks in the ceiling, catching on the feathers of dust that dance above him. Around him lie 3 wolves, their fur matted with blood, their bodies trembling. Lucien's mask gleams faintly as he moves. His hands, large, strong, and gloved, are astonishingly gentle. He presses herbs into wounds, cleans blood with water from a silver basin, and murmurs words too soft for her to hear. The wolves don't fear him. One of them, a white one, scarred along its flank, rests its head on his lap, whining faintly. Lucian pauses, stroking its fur with careful fingers. "Easy now," he murmurs. "You've fought enough for one night." His voice is different here, warmer, almost tender. Elara steps closer, but the vines rustle under her foot. Lucian freezes. Slowly, he turns his masked face toward her. The torchlight reflects in his silver mask, but his tone is calm. "You shouldn't be here. You're healing them," she says softly. "Like I would." He hesitates, then turns back to the wounded wolf. "They are my kin," he says at last. "They are all that's left of what the curse hasn't taken." Something in the way he says curse makes her chest ache. She kneels beside him without asking, her hands steady though her heart races. When she reaches to help, he doesn't stop her. Together they clean the wounds in silence, their movements slow, deliberate. For the first time, their hands brush, not cold or monstrous, but human. When the last wolf is bandaged and resting peacefully, Lucian looks at her for a long moment. "You should fear me," he says quietly, "not follow me into the dark." Elara meets the silver mask head on. Maybe the dark needs someone who isn't afraid to see. The silence that follows feels sacred, fragile like the first light before dawn. For the first time, she doesn't see a monster at all. She sees a protector, a guardian of broken things, including himself. The days pass in a rhythm that feels strange, yet steady. Morning light filters through tall windows, and the castle seems almost gentle then, its cold stone warmed by golden rays. Elara spends her time in the library, the gardens, and the long echoing halls where her footsteps are the only sound. At first, every creak, every whisper from the walls made her heart race. She would flinch at the flutter of curtains, or the shifting shadows that seemed to move when she turned away. The air carried stories, old magic breathing beneath the surface, watching her. But after that night in the underground garden, something inside her changes. She begins to see the castle differently. The mirrors that once unsettled her now shimmer softly, as though reflecting not danger but memory. The doors that creaked open by themselves seem to invite her instead of warning her away. And Lucian, he no longer feels like a curse given form. He keeps his distance, speaking little, always veiled behind that silver mask. Yet she notices things now, how he pauses when she enters a room, as if attuned to her presence, how he ensures her favorite herbs appear freshly gathered in the mornings, how the fire in her chambers never dies, even when she forgets to tend it. Elara's healer's heart can't help but wonder, what pain hides behind his mask? What story shaped the silence in his eyes? She starts leaving small touches of life around the castle. Flowers in glass jars, candles where shadows feel heaviest, songs hummed under her breath as she walks. Sometimes she feels the air shift, as if the castle itself sighs with gratitude. At night, when she lies in her grand but lonely bed, she remembers his voice from the wolf den, soft, careful, wounded. And instead of fearing what lies behind his mask, she finds herself wanting to understand it. Fear had been her armor. Now curiosity becomes her key. And though she doesn't realize it yet, it is curiosity, not courage, that first begins to unravel the curse. One afternoon, while wandering through the endless hallways of the West Wing, Elara comes upon a grand corridor she's never seen before. The air feels heavy here, thick with old enchantment and the faint scent of forgotten roses. Velvet drapes cover every window, blocking out the sunlight. At the far end stands a door, ancient, carved with silver vines and strange symbols that seem to shimmer faintly when her fingers brush the wood. Before she can push it open, a hand catches her wrist. It's Mira, the oldest of the castle servants, wrinkled, watchful, her gray eyes filled with quiet fear. "Don't," she whispers, her voice trembling. That door leads to his past. No one enters. Not even he. Elara hesitates, curiosity flickering in her gaze. Why? What's behind it? Mira glances down the hall, ensuring no one listens. Then she leans close, her voice barely a breath. My lady. The prince's face is not meant to be seen. The curse forbids it. To look upon him before it breaks is to invite doom, not only upon yourself, but upon him as well. Elara feels a chill crawl down her spine. Doom? She repeats softly. The servant nods. Many years ago, before your time, a maiden tried. They found her before dawn. Her heart turned to ash, her eyes frozen in terror. Since then, no one dares to gaze upon him. The warning echoes through Elara's mind long after Mira leaves. That night, as she sits by the fire, she can't stop wondering, what kind of curse could be so cruel that even a glimpse of a man's face brings death? And what burden does Lucienne carry, hidden behind that mask? The thought haunts her, and though fear whispers caution, the seed of temptation is planted. For in every locked door, every forbidden secret, there lies the call of destiny, and Elara's heart, brave and curious, has always answered that call. Days in the shadowed castle pass like mist, soft, silent, and filled with mystery. Elara, though forbidden from asking questions, can't silence the healer's curiosity burning inside her. Each glance at Lucien's silver mask, each whispered warning, only fuels her need to know why such sorrow binds him. So, late one night, after the servants retire and the halls fall quiet, Elara lights a single candle and steals into the castle's vast library. Dust dances in the dim glow as she moves through aisles of forgotten books, their spines cracked and faded with age. She pulls one after another, histories, myths, letters, and begins to piece together the story buried beneath centuries of silence. What she uncovers chills her heart. Long ago, before Lucien's time, there was a prince who fell in love with a maiden from the lower realms, a healer, gentle and radiant. Their love defied every law of the kingdom. When the council learned of it, they accused the girl of witchcraft and burned her at dawn. The prince, driven by rage and grief, cursed his own bloodline. Let every heir born to this throne wear the face of the beast they made me become, until love that sees beyond the mask restores what was lost. The curse was sealed in the fire of betrayal. From that day onward, each heir bore the mark, hidden behind masks, shunned, feared, and alone. Elara closes the book, her heart pounding. She feels tears sting her eyes. The tragedy is too familiar, too human. The curse wasn't born from evil. It was born from love destroyed by pride. When she returns to her chambers, she gazes at Lucien's mask with new understanding. The monster isn't the curse. It's the pain that made it. For the first time, she doesn't fear the prince. She pities him. And somewhere deep within her, a promise begins to form, a quiet vow to find the truth that might finally set him free. The deeper Elara delves into the old scrolls and half-burned journals, the clearer the truth becomes. And it is darker than she ever imagined. Generations ago, before Lucien's name was ever whispered in fear, there was a powerful sorceress named Marries, whose heart belonged to a prince, the first heir of the royal bloodline. Their bond had been secret, their love passionate and forbidden. But when the time came for the prince to take the throne, he cast her aside to marry a noblewoman chosen by the court. Marries' heart shattered, and her grief turned to fury that could scorch the heavens. On the night of his wedding, she appeared in a storm of fire and lightning, her tears glistening like shards of glass. The prince begged for mercy, but Marries' voice echoed through the great hall as she raised her hands and spoke the words that would haunt his bloodline forever. As you hid me in shadows, so shall your sons hide their faces. As you broke my heart, so shall every heir carry the beast within. Beauty shall fear you, love shall flee you, and only a heart that dares to see beyond the mask shall end what I began. The curse took hold that very night. The prince's features twisted under its power, his reflection warped, his skin marked by runes that no spell could erase. His bride fled screaming into the dark, and Morel vanished into legend. But her curse endured. Every heir that followed was born bearing the same mark, the same hidden face. Some tried to break it through war, others through magic, but none succeeded. Over time, fear replaced compassion. The royal family built their empire upon secrecy and superstition, until the monster prince, Lucien, became its living symbol. When Elara finishes reading, her hand trembles over the final page. This wasn't just a curse of vengeance. It was a chain of sorrow passed down for centuries. She whispers into the silence, "No one deserves to pay forever for another's sin." And though the walls of the castle give no reply, she feels it, a shift in the air, as if someone, something, heard her words, perhaps even Lucien himself. As the days pass, something strange begins to stir within the castle walls. The air grows warmer where once it was icy cold, and the endless echo of sorrow seems to fade. The servants, ghostly figures bound by magic, begin to hum softly again, as if remembering what joy once felt like. It starts subtly. The roses in the dead courtyard bloom again overnight, their petals glowing faintly under the moonlight. The mirrors that once rippled with whispers now reflect clear images when Elara passes by. Even the shadows seem to shy away from her presence, unable to cling to the light that follows her. Elara, unaware of the quiet miracle she's igniting, continues her gentle routine. She tends to the wounded wolves, reads aloud to the lonely halls, and speaks to Lucien, as though he is more than the beast everyone claims him to be. She thanks him for his kindness, laughs softly at his guarded humor, and never recoils from the darkness that surrounds him. One night, when Lucien visits, his mask glints in the candlelight. His voice, usually cold, distant, softens when he says her name. Elara. It's the first time he's spoken it with warmth. She smiles faintly, sensing something beneath his carefully built walls. "You don't have to hide who you are," she whispers. "You are not your curse." Lucien turns away sharply, gripping the arm of his chair until it cracks. But even as he fights the emotions swelling inside him, the runes hidden beneath his mask burn faintly with gold instead of red, a sign that something ancient is shifting. Unseen to them both, the curse that has bound his bloodline for generations begins to unravel, not through spells or sacrifice, but through the quiet strength of Elara's heart. Love, pure, patient, and unafraid, has begun to challenge the darkness. At first, it's almost unnoticeable, a faint glimmer on the walls, a trace of warmth in the air. But soon, the entire castle begins to stir, as though it's waking from a century-long sleep. Where Elara walks, light follows. The once gloomy corridors glow with golden hues. Dust that had settled over chandeliers now shimmers as sunlight filters through newly clear windows. The mirrors, which once distorted faces and whispered lies, reflect her image clearly, bright, alive, real. The servants, bound spirits that had long lingered in silence, begin to hum soft songs they once sang in life. The wolves that haunted the courtyards lift their heads as she passes, their amber eyes gentle instead of fierce. And in the gardens, where nothing had bloomed since the curse began, flowers burst from the soil in radiant color. Vines crawl up the stone walls, weaving blossoms of blue and gold that glow faintly at night. The air smells of spring, even though winter still grips the world beyond the castle gates. Elara doesn't understand the miracle. She only follows her instincts, kindness, care, and courage, unaware that her very presence is rewriting centuries of sorrow. She tends to the sick wolves, leaves bread for the servants, and reads to the silent halls in her soft, melodic voice. Lucien watches her from the shadows, his masked face unreadable. Every laugh she gives, every flower that blooms at her touch, strikes something deep within him. something both beautiful and terrifying. He whispers, more to himself than anyone, "She's changing everything, even me." And far above, on the castle's highest tower, a single rose grows through cracked stone, crimson and alive. It's the first rose to bloom there in 100 years. The curse is trembling. The darkness is retreating. And all because one woman dared to love where others only feared. Every passing day pulls Lucien deeper into a dangerous tenderness he swore he'd never feel again. From the shadows of his throne room, he watches Elara walk through the blooming courtyards, her laughter echoing softly between the walls that once knew only silence. Her kindness has become the heartbeat of the castle, and unknowingly the heartbeat of him. At night he finds excuses to visit her, under the guise of checking her safety, of discussing the curse, of asking about the gardens she's revived. But really, it's just to hear her voice, to stand near her warmth, to remember for a fleeting moment what it means to live. Yet with every smile she gives him, fear tightens its claws around his heart. He knows what hides beneath his silver mask, the monstrous truth of his lineage, the twisted markings that cover his skin, the cursed glow that burns behind his eyes, the beast that waits beneath his calm voice and careful restraint. He tells himself she could never understand, that if she saw what lies beneath, her compassion would turn to horror, her soft eyes to terror. She would run, as all others did. So he keeps his distance, though his heart aches to draw closer. He masks his longing with formality, his affection with command, and when Elara offers him a smile, warm, trusting, unafraid, he answers only with a quiet bow, turning away before she can see the sorrow in his gaze. That night, alone in his chamber, he stands before the mirror he's avoided for years. The silver mask gleams faintly as he whispers to his reflection, "If she ever saw you, she'd never stay." But the curse, watching from the shadows of the room, hums with new power, a power born not from despair this time, but from love battling fear. And though Lucien doesn't yet know it, every moment he lets his heart feel is another thread unraveling the darkness that binds him. Thunder rumbled across the sky like the roar of some ancient beast, shaking the walls of the cursed castle. Rain lashed against the windows, lightning flashed through the dark halls, and in that wild storm, the air seemed alive with restless energy. Elara sat near the great hearth, reading quietly by candlelight, when a sudden crash echoed through the corridors. It was sharp, like glass breaking, followed by a low, strangled sound that made her heart stop. She rose quickly, the book slipping from her hands. "Lucien?" No answer. Only the storm's fury and a distant, aching cry. Guided by instinct, she followed the sound through twisting hallways until she reached the east wing, the one Lucien had forbidden her to enter. The heavy doors groaned as she pushed them open, revealing a long gallery lined with ancient mirrors. Most were covered with dark cloth, their edges frayed by time. But one, the largest, had shattered, shards glittering across the marble floor. Lucien stood before it, trembling, his mask gone. His back was turned to her, his dark hair damp with sweat, his shoulders rising and falling in uneven breaths. In the flash of lightning, she caught a glimpse, just a glimpse, of his reflection in the broken mirror. Half his face was visible in the fractured glass. It wasn't monstrous at all. Yes, there were scars, pale lines that glowed faintly like embers. But beneath them was the face of a man, weary, haunted, and heartbreakingly human. Her breath caught. The sight didn't frighten her. It moved her. She stepped forward softly, voice barely above the storm. "Lucien." He froze. Then, in an instant, he snatched the broken mask from the floor and turned away, hiding himself in the shadows. "You shouldn't be here," he said hoarsely. "You shouldn't have seen." But she took another step, her tone trembling but tender. "I saw you." Lightning split the sky again, illuminating them both, her face full of compassion, his filled with shame. and in that fragile silence, something ancient stirred, a curse quivering on the edge of change. Because for the first time in centuries, someone had looked at the cursed prince and not recoiled. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't fled. She had seen him. The air between them trembles, thick with pain, magic, and rain-soaked silence. Elara takes a cautious step forward, her hand trembling as she reaches toward the shadowed figure before her. "Lucian, please," she whispers, her voice breaking through the crackle of thunder. "You don't have to hide from me." He stands still for a moment, every muscle tense, his breath uneven. The stormlight flickers across his back, revealing faint golden lines glowing beneath his skin, the curse itself, alive and pulsing with sorrow. "Don't," he rasps, his tone low, desperate. "You don't understand what you've seen. The curse feeds on those who get too close. If you care for me—" "I do care," she says softly, taking another step closer. "That's why—" But before she can finish, the air shifts. A cold wind rushes through the hall, extinguishing every flame. The castle groans, its walls whispering in the ancient tongue of the curse. And then, in one heartbeat, he's gone. The spot where he stood is empty, as if the darkness itself swallowed him whole. Only the faint echo of his voice lingers. "Stay away from me, Elara, before it takes you too." Her hand remains outstretched in the empty air, fingers brushing nothing but shadows. The storm outside rages harder, as if mourning with her. Rain pours through the shattered window, soaking the floor where shards of the mirror glimmer like fallen stars. Elara falls to her knees, her heart pounding with fear and sorrow. She doesn't know where he's gone, only that he's suffering, alone, and convinced that he's beyond saving. But deep inside, a quiet fire begins to burn. She refuses to believe the curse has won, not when she's seen the man beneath the monster. And so, as the lightning fades, Elara whispers into the storm, "Then I'll find you, Lucian, even if I have to walk through the darkness itself." The curse stirs again, not in triumph this time, but in warning. Because love, true and unyielding, has begun to challenge its hold. When dawn finally comes, it brings no peace, only silence. The storm has passed, but the air feels heavy, charged with the residue of dark magic. Elara wakes to find her chamber cloaked in shadow. The once lively fire has burned out, the air cold and still. For a moment she wonders if the night before, the shattering mirror, the glimpse of Lucien's face, his sudden disappearance, had all been some terrible dream. But then she hears it, the grinding of iron bolts sliding into place. The door to her room is being locked from the outside. She rushes toward it and pounds her fists against the wood. "Lucian, what are you doing?" There's a pause, a long, aching silence, and before his voice reaches her through the door. It's strained, rough, and distant. "You must stay there, Elara. Do not try to leave." Her pulse quickens. "Why? What's happening?" "The curse has stirred," he says, his tone heavy with regret. "It feeds on emotion, on fear, on love. You've seen too much, and now it's trying to claim you too." Elara presses her hand against the door, her voice trembling. "Then let me help you. We can face it together." "No." His reply is sharp, almost pleading. "You don't understand. I can't control it anymore. If you leave that room, if you see me again, I might not be able to protect you." The sound of his boots fades down the corridor, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the still air. Elara stands there for a long time, her forehead against the cold door, tears blurring her vision. She remembers the warmth that had begun to return to the castle, the flowers blooming, the laughter, the hope, and now all of it feels trapped behind walls again. The windows no longer open. The corridors outside are eerily silent. Even the light seems afraid to enter. Lucian's voice lingers in her mind, torn between love and despair. You must stay where it's safe, even if it means staying away from me. But Elara has already made her choice in her heart. She will not let fear win. Not now. Not when she's seen the man beneath the mask, and the humanity still fighting to break free. Days pass in tense stillness. The castle remains locked, the silence pressing like a weight on Elara's heart. Then one evening, as she sits beside the dim glow of a single candle, a voice slithers through the air. You do not belong here, child of light. Startled, Elara turns. Standing in the corner, where the shadows are thickest, is a man cloaked in black velvet. His presence feels wrong. Too quiet. Too smooth. His eyes gleam like molten gold beneath his hood. Who are you? She whispers, clutching her pendant. He smiles thinly. An old friend of the royal bloodline. Once their protector. Now their only hope. Elara feels both drawn and repelled. There is something powerful about him. Something ancient. You know about the curse? I know how to end it. His voice is soft, almost musical. For centuries, the monster princes have hidden behind masks, cursed by the sins of their ancestors. But I hold the key, an incantation that can shatter the bond forever. Her heart races. Truly, you can lift it. He nods slowly, stepping closer. Yes, I can free you. Free this castle. Free the world from the beast's bloodline. Elara's relief falters at the chill in his tone. Free the world? The man's smile sharpens. The curse ends when the blood that bears it is spilled. One life for 1,000 generations of peace. She stares at him, horrified. You mean, Lucian? The advisor's eyes gleam brighter, predatory. He is the vessel of the curse. Destroy him and the spell will unravel. You will be hailed as a savior, the queen who restored the throne. Elara steps back, shaking her head. No, I won't harm him. There must be another way. He tilts his head, studying her as if she were a foolish child. You think love can heal what was forged in wrath? You think your tender heart can undo the work of dark magic older than time? Elara's hands tremble, but her voice is steady. If love cannot, then nothing can. The man's expression darkens, the air around him thick with power. Then you choose the beast over salvation. Remember that when the curse devours you both. With a gust of cold wind, he vanishes, leaving behind only the faint scent of smoke and despair. Elara sinks to her knees, shaken. Her mind whirls with fear and doubt. Could the advisor be right? Could Lucian's death truly free them? But deep inside, her heart whispers the truth she already knows. He is not the curse. He is the one suffering under it. And so Elara makes a silent vow. No matter what darkness comes, she will not trade love for freedom. She will find another way, even if it costs her everything. Elara's breath comes in shaky waves long after the mysterious advisor vanishes. His words echo in her mind like poisoned whispers. Destroy him, and the curse will end. But as she looks toward the closed doors of Lucian's chamber, a different voice speaks louder, her own heart. She remembers the way his hands trembled when he tended the injured wolf, the gentleness in his voice when he asked if she felt safe, the way he always stood between her and danger, even as he hid behind his mask. A man who brings life to the wounded cannot be a monster. Elara moves to the window. The storm outside has eased, replaced by a moon that spills silver light across the courtyard. She sees the garden below, the same one where flowers began to bloom after her arrival. The same garden Lucian restored in secret when she fell ill weeks ago. Her eyes fill with tears. He's been protecting me all this time, she whispers. Not himself. Love blooms quietly within her, not born of beauty or charm, but of compassion, sacrifice, and shared loneliness. She realizes that her heart no longer races from fear when she hears his footsteps. It beats faster because it longs for him. Elara clenches her fists, her resolve solidifying like steel. I will not betray him, she says softly, even if it means I remain cursed too. The air in the room seems to respond. The candlelight flares brighter, shadows retreat, and a faint warmth fills the space. The castle itself seems to sigh in relief, as if acknowledging her choice. Somewhere down the hall, Lucian stands alone in the darkness, unaware that his fate just changed. Unaware that the woman meant to break his curse has instead fallen in love with the man behind it. That night, Elara kneels by her window, whispering a vow to the moon. Let the curse take me if it must, but I will not abandon him. Unseen by her, a single petal of vime, a dead rose, blooms once more in the prince's chambers, a sign that love, not blood, has begun to undo what hatred once bound. Midnight cloaks the castle in uneasy silence. The corridors, once alive with whispering enchantments, now seem to hold their breath as Elara moves through them, barefoot, heart-pounding, guided only by the pale glow of her lantern. Lucian's warning echoes in her memory. Never enter the tower, Elara. Some doors must remain closed. But she cannot obey, not anymore. Love and fear war within her, but love wins. She needs to understand the curse, not hide from it. The staircase spirals upward like a serpent made of stone. Each step creaks beneath her weight, the air growing colder, denser, as though the tower itself resents her presence. Dust motes swirl in the lantern's light, and faded runes shimmer faintly on the walls, symbols of ancient power long forgotten. When she reaches the final door, it's bound by black vines pulsing faintly like living veins. She hesitates only a moment before placing her trembling hands on the handle. The vines recoil at her touch, hissing softly, and the lock clicks open. Inside, the room is a haunting gallery of sorrow. Portraits hang on every wall, kings and queens with half-masked faces, their painted eyes hollow with grief. At the center stands a massive mirror draped in torn velvet, its frame carved with the same runes she saw below. Elara approaches slowly. The air hums around her. Her reflection flickers, first her face, then the faint shadow of another beside her. Whispers rise from the walls, echoes of centuries-old pain. Cursed for betrayal, doomed by the bloodline, bound by broken love. She pulls aside a dusty book resting on a pedestal. The title glows faintly, The Sin of the Silver Heir. As she opens it, words bleed across the page like living ink. It tells of a prince who broke the heart of a sorceress who loved him, and in her fury, she bound his bloodline to reflect their sins, forcing every heir to bear the scars of their ancestors until true love saw beyond the beast. Elara's hands tremble. So it was never about his face, she whispers. It was about his heart. Then she sees it. At the final page, a warning etched in red. If the chosen bride learns the truth before love is complete, the curse will awaken in her instead. The lantern flickers violently. Wind howls through the cracks in the tower. The book slams shut on its own. Elara staggers backward, realization dawning in terror and awe. By searching for the truth, she may have just invited the curse upon herself. Below, in the great hall, Lucian jerks upright from his restless sleep, his wolf's instinct sensing danger, his bond to her burning like fire through the night. He whispers her name. Elara. And for the first time in years, the castle begins to tremble, as if the curse itself has awakened. The room quakes softly as Elara steadies the flickering lantern in her trembling hands. Her gaze drifts past the shattered mirror and the swirling dust until she sees something half-buried behind a fallen tapestry. A frame, tall and gilded, hidden beneath centuries of cobwebs. Curiosity overcomes fear. She pulls the tapestry away, coughing as clouds of dust rise around her. What lies beneath steals the breath from her lungs. It is a painting, ancient and luminous despite its age. The colors shimmer faintly, as if the magic within refuses to fade. The portrait shows a young man, the monster prince before the curse, his expression serene, his eyes bright like dawn breaking after a long storm. Lucian. but not the Lucian she knows cloaked in darkness and sorrow. This one is vibrant, alive, every brushstroke radiating warmth and strength. His golden brown hair falls loose around his shoulders, his lips curved in a quiet, kind smile. He looks almost holy, yet deeply human. The air hums with power as she stares. Beneath the paint, faint silver threads seem to pulse, weaving across his features like veins of light. The curse's remnants try to fight her gaze, twisting the image into something monstrous, yet Elara refuses to look away. Tears sting her eyes. So this is who you were, she whispers. Who you are. For a heartbeat, the painted Lucian's eyes seem to flicker open, the illusion of movement, or something far more real. The light in the room bends toward her, and a soft, ancient voice murmurs through her mind. See beyond the mask, child of mercy, for only love unblinded may restore the dawn. The vines around the tower walls begin to retract, and the shadows waver like smoke. The air smells suddenly of roses, faint, sweet, impossible. Elara reaches out to touch the painting's surface, her fingers trembling as they brush the edge of his face. Warmth floods through her fingertips, racing up her arm and into her heart. A memory not her own blooming within her. Lucian laughing, playing among sunlit gardens before the darkness took him. A sob escapes her. You were never a monster, she breathes. But before she can pull away, the ground shudders violently. The light from the painting flares, too bright to bear, and her lantern crashes to the floor. A distant roar echoes through the castle, raw, pained, furious. Lucian has felt it. He knows she has seen him. And somewhere below, the curse begins to unravel, in both of them. When the tremors settle and silence drapes the tower once more, Elara kneels beside the fallen lantern, heart pounding. The painting still glows faintly, its light softer now, pulsing like a heartbeat. She senses there's something more, a truth hidden beneath the surface. Then, from within the frame, words begin to shimmer. Ancient runes of silver flame curling across the bottom edge. They whisper in a language half forgotten, yet somehow she understands it, as if the magic itself wants her to know. Only eyes unafraid may unbind the night. Only love that sees the monster, yet stays, shall shatter the veil and wake the light. The words sink deep into her heart, and Elara suddenly understands what the curse truly demands. Not a spell, not a sacrifice, but acceptance. The curse was never meant to be broken by power. It was meant to test the purity of love. To see him as he is, not as the world has made him. Her throat tightens as she pieces it together. That's why every woman before her failed. They ran, or they screamed, or they turned away the moment they saw the truth beneath the mask. And so the curse held. Tears spill down Elara's cheeks as she whispers, "You were never meant to be saved by magic, only by being seen." A warmth stirs around her. The castle itself seems to respond, walls humming faintly, the vines on the tower walls curling open like awakening eyes. The shadows no longer feel cruel but sorrowful, longing to be freed. She presses her hand to her heart, trembling between awe and fear. If she looks upon him fully, if she sees the face everyone calls monstrous, she could break the curse. But the rune's faint, fading glow leaves her with a chilling warning. Love must be true, for if it falters, the curse will consume them both. Elara closes her eyes, whispering a vow into the still air. Then I will love you, Lucian, even if it means I burn with you. The moment she speaks those words, the castle's heartbeat echoes louder, like thunder rolling through stone. Somewhere below, Lucien senses it, and the beast inside him stirs. The heavy doors of the tower burst open with a violent crash, wind whipping through the ancient chamber. Lucien stands framed in the doorway, his cloak torn by the storm, his mask gleaming like a fragment of moonlight. His voice is raw, desperate, almost broken. "Elara, you should not be here." But Elara doesn't flinch. The glow from the cursed painting casts gold against her face, making her seem ethereal, soft but unyielding. She stands her ground, her heart racing, yet her voice steady. "You've hidden long enough, Lucian, from me, and from yourself." He takes a step forward, rain dripping from his dark hair, his gloved hand tightening at his side. "You don't understand what you risk. If you look upon me, the curse will—" "Kill me?" she interrupts, her tone trembling but brave. "Or free you?" The words hang between them like lightning. Lucian's jaw tightens. He turns away, his mask catching the candlelight as he whispers, "You think this is noble, Elara? You think love can undo centuries of darkness? I was born a monster. The curse only revealed what I already was." Elara steps closer, her eyes fierce. "No, Lucian. I've seen your heart. The man who tended wounded wolves, who freed trapped birds from windows, who speaks with gentleness even when the world calls him beast. How can that man be a monster?" His breath shudders. The air between them crackles with something fragile, sacred, and unbearably human. "You would not say that," he murmurs, "if you saw what lies beneath." She reaches out, hand trembling slightly, but her voice softens to a whisper, one filled with resolve. "Then let me see." Lucian freezes. Every instinct screams for him to retreat. The curse tightens its grip, the room darkening as shadows surge up the walls. But Elara doesn't stop. She steps into the darkness, inches from him now, her hand hovering over his mask. "You think fear will drive me away," she says, tears in her eyes. "But I'm more afraid of losing you to it." For the first time, Lucien's defenses crack. A small, broken sound escapes his throat, half growl, half sob. He whispers, "If you see me, Elara, there's no going back." And she replies, voice trembling but sure, "Then let this be the moment we go forward." With slow, deliberate courage, she reaches for his mask, fingers brushing the cold metal, ready to face whatever truth lies beneath, not as a savior, but as someone who dares to love what the world calls unlovable. Lucien staggers back as her fingertips graze the edge of his mask, his breath ragged, fear flashing through his eyes like lightning. "No, Elara, don't," he chokes out, voice trembling with something far deeper than anger. "You don't understand what this curse does. It feeds on your sight, on your heart. If you look at me, it will take your life." The storm outside howls, the wind slamming against the stained glass echoing his panic. The air in the tower grows charged, thick with ancient magic, a living, breathing warning. The walls themselves seem to whisper, "Don't look." Elara freezes for a heartbeat, watching him tremble. This proud, cursed prince who once ruled with silence now standing before her as a man terrified of being loved. She whispers softly, "Lucian, what are you so afraid I'll see?" He turns from her, his hands clawing at his own mask as though torn between saving her and freeing himself. Shadows coil around his form, licking up his arms, the curse pulsing through his veins. His voice breaks, hoarse with pain. "I am not the man you think I am. I've killed with my rage. I've hurt those who tried to care. This curse, it lives because of me. Every time someone looks upon me with pity, it grows stronger. You'll die trying to save me, Elara." His fear is raw. Not the fear of death, but of loss. Of her loss. Elara steps closer, despite the magic thrashing through the room, the golden runes on the walls flickering in warning. "You think your curse can take me," she says quietly. "But you're wrong. It can only take what I don't give freely. And I give you my choice, Lucian. My heart. My sight." Lucian shakes his head violently, stepping back until he hits the wall. "No, please. Please don't do this. I can bear the curse, but I can't bear watching you die for it." Her eyes glisten, and she takes another step, unafraid. "Then don't watch," she whispers. "Just believe." The wind explodes through the tower, candles snuffing out in one sweeping gust. Lucian raises his hand, voice desperate, pleading one last time. "Elara, stop, I beg you." But her fingers, calm and steady, reach forward, touching the cold metal of his mask. And in that suspended moment, the world seems to hold its breath. The storm stills, the curse trembles, and love dares to look where fear once ruled. For a heartbeat, the world stops. The air holds its breath. The rain outside stills mid-fall, each drop hanging like crystal glass in the charged silence. Elara's fingers slide beneath the edge of Lucian's mask. He shudders, not from pain, but from the terror of being seen. His entire body trembles as if the curse itself tries to hold the mask in place. Shadows coil like living smoke, whispering, "Don't." But her resolve is unshakable. With one slow, gentle motion, she lifts the mask away. It falls to the floor with a metallic echo, and what lies beneath steals the breath from her lungs. Lucian's face is not the monster the kingdom feared. His skin bears marks, dark, swirling traces of the curse that move like living ink across his flesh, faintly glowing with silver veins. One side of his face seems almost celestial, sculpted with painful beauty, while the other bears the scars of magic's cruelty, cracks of shadow that pulse faintly like embers. But his eyes, are what shatter her heart. They are full of sorrow and light, an impossible mixture of torment and tenderness, as if he has spent a lifetime carrying the weight of both his sins and his love. He flinches beneath her gaze, whispering hoarsely, "Now you see the beast the world fears." But Elara doesn't step back. Instead, she lifts her trembling hand and traces one of the dark lines across his cheek. The moment her skin touches his, the curse recoils, smoke hissing and retreating as though her touch burns it. "I see a man," she murmurs, tears glimmering. "A man who's suffered, not a monster." Lucian's breath falters. The shadows around him twist, uncertain, as if unsure whether to defend or surrender. "Elara," he breathes, "you should be terrified." "I am," she admits softly, "but not of you." And as her words reach him, something ancient cracks, a sound like glass breaking, like chains splintering in the dark. The curse trembles violently, its centuries of hatred and grief shaken by one simple truth. He has finally been seen, and still loved. Lucien falls to his knees, overwhelmed, clutching at her hand as the shadows writhe and begin to tear free from his skin. Light floods the chamber, warm and golden, illuminating every corner the darkness once claimed. For the first time in his life, the cursed prince doesn't hide. He just breathes, raw, unmasked, and free beneath the gaze of the one woman who refused to turn away. The moment Lucian's mask touches the ground, the curse screams. Not a whisper this time, but a sound like 1,000 wailing souls clawing at the walls of the world. The air shatters with invisible force, the very stones of the tower vibrating under the weight of its fury. Lucian gasps, clutching his chest as veins of dark magic crawl across his skin, spreading like wildfire. The shadows, once subdued, erupt, twisting into monstrous shapes that coil around the ceiling, the walls, the broken mirrors. They howl in rage, their voices echoing with words from another age. He must not be freed. Love cannot undo the ancient debt. The curse must have blood. The floor cracks open, splitting like a wound. Chunks of marble and glass float in midair, suspended by raw, untamed power. Elara is thrown backward, her gown whipping in the chaos. Lightning flashes through the tower's broken windows, illuminating Lucian as he staggers, half man, half shadow, his body caught between two worlds. "Elara, run!" he roars, his voice layered with both his and the beast's. "It's feeding on me. On us." But Elara refuses. She fights against the raging wind, crawling toward him as the curse tries to pull her away. Her hair flies wildly, her skin glowing faintly with the same golden light that has always followed her. Compassion. "No! You've fought alone long enough, Lucian," she cries. "I won't leave you to it." He drops to one knee, agony twisting his face as the curse lashes at him, black fire wrapping around his arms. The runes on the walls flare to life, their voices chanting ancient words that make the air hum. The castle itself begins to crumble, staircases breaking apart, portraits burning with spectral flames, chandeliers crashing like dying stars. Elara forces herself to her feet, staggering toward him through the chaos. The magic tries to strike her down, but every time it nears, it falters, her light pushing it back just enough. Lucian looks up through the storm of destruction, eyes wide with pain and disbelief. "Why won't you leave?" he gasps, barely able to hold himself upright. She reaches him at last, her palm pressing to his chest, right over his heart. "Because I love you," she whispers through the roar of the curse. "And I won't let it win." At her words, the storm hesitates. The black tendrils waver, the shadows scream in protest. But cracks of light begin to split through them, bright and defiant. And then the castle erupts in blinding radiance, a final battle between darkness and love, rage and grace. Lucian's scream merges with the sound of the collapsing curse. Elara's tears fall onto his skin like sparks of sunlight. And somewhere in the chaos, a heartbeat continues. The world is breaking apart around them, walls crumbling, chandeliers raining molten glass, the very air alive with roaring energy. But in the center of it all, Elara's trembling hands find Lucian's face. His skin burns beneath her touch, flickering between flesh and shadow, human and beast. The curse howls, trying to tear them apart. But she doesn't flinch. Her eyes, filled with tears and light, lock onto his. "You are not your curse," she breathes. For the first time, Lucian's body stills. His ragged breath falters as if her words reach the very part of him the darkness had buried long ago. The beastly marks across his skin flicker, the black veins pulsing like they're listening. He looks at her, truly looks, and in that gaze, centuries of torment crack. "Elara," he rasps, his voice breaking. "You don't understand. It is me. It's what I became." But she shakes her head, her thumbs brushing his cheeks as though wiping away centuries of guilt. "No, it's what was done to you, what you've carried, but it's not who you are." The curse roars in fury, 1,000 spectral voices shrieking heresy. The tower flashes between light and shadow, its foundations trembling as the battle for Lucian's soul rages. Yet Elara doesn't move. Her love holds like iron. "You are kind," she whispers fiercely. "You are gentle. You care for the wounded. You've protected me. That's who you are, not this darkness." Lucian's eyes glisten. For the first time, tears cut through the darkness, glowing faintly, as if even sorrow could shine. The monstrous form around him begins to fracture, the shadow burning away in streaks of golden fire. The curse lashes out one final time, a violent wave of black magic. But Elara presses her forehead to his, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I see you, Lucian, and I love you." A sound like the breaking of chains echoes through the castle. The storm of magic implodes, drawn into a single brilliant light that engulfs them both. And then, silence. The curse's scream fades into nothing. The air clears. The shattered glass drifts like snow. Lucian collapses into her arms, no longer monstrous. Only a man, trembling, human, and free. A blinding flash explodes from Lucian's chest, pure and searing, like the first light of creation itself. The shadows scream, twisting, writhing, before disintegrating into dust. For centuries, the curse had lived in his blood, feeding on shame and fear. Now it burns away, unable to survive the truth of her love. Elara staggers back as the radiance grows, flooding the ruined hall with waves of warmth and life. The torn banners mend themselves. Cracked marble breathes again, veins of gold threading through the stone. The cursed torches, once black with decay, ignite with flames of silver white. Lucian's body lifts slightly from the ground, the magic coursing through him like lightning and sunlight combined. His monstrous form peels away layer by layer, claws melting into skin, horns dissolving like ash. Elara shields her eyes, tears streaming as the light surges. It's not painful. It's holy. It's freedom given form. Then, all at once, the storm of brilliance collapses inward, and silence falls. Smoke rises softly where the shadows once stood. The heavy air of despair is gone, replaced by the scent of rain and new beginnings. When Elara dares to look up, she gasps. Lucian stands before her, not masked, not monstrous, but wholly himself. His eyes glow gold like sunlight breaking through dawn clouds. His hair, once streaked with darkness, now shines with the hue of warm bronze. The mark of the curse is gone, replaced by a faint shimmer that pulses with life. He breathes, slow, deep, free, as though taking his first true breath in 100 years. Elara, he whispers, voice trembling. It's over. She steps closer, her hand finding his once more. Their fingers intertwine naturally, as if they had always belonged together. Around them, the castle transforms. Vines bloom, crystal chandeliers reform, and the broken windows now pour in golden sunlight. The spell is not just broken, it's healed. And at the center of it all stand two souls who defied destiny, the cursed prince and the woman who loved the light back into him. The final wave of light fades, leaving behind the echo of a heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. Lucian sways on his feet, the remnants of the curse evaporating from his skin like mist at sunrise. The monstrous armor that once bound him disintegrates into shimmering dust, falling silently around them like snow. His body weakens, too long burdened by magic and pain. He collapses into Elara's arms, heavy but warm, human. Elara lowers him gently to the marble floor, her trembling hands brushing the side of his face. The mask is gone. His scars, once deep and jagged, now glow faintly, not as marks of shame, but as threads of gold, tracing his skin like divine art. She gasps softly. You're beautiful. Lucian opens his eyes slowly, no longer burning red but soft amber, full of emotion. His breath comes ragged, yet his lips curve into the smallest, most fragile smile. I told you, he whispers weakly. It would destroy me. Elara shakes her head, tears blurring her vision. No, she breathes, holding him closer. It saved you. The air hums faintly around them, as if the very castle sighs in relief. The storm clouds outside break apart, revealing a dawn sky, gold spilling across the horizon. Lucian's fingers trace the back of her hand. The golden lines on his skin pulse softly, like living veins of light. He is no longer cursed, no longer a monster. Only a man, broken, reborn, and loved. For the first time in his life, his touch carries no fear, no shadow, only warmth. And in that moment, as the sun filters through shattered glass, Elara knows the truth. She didn't just break the curse. She rewrote it, with love strong enough to turn scars into gold. Morning spills gently through the broken windows, flooding the once shadowed halls with warmth. The castle that had groaned and wept beneath centuries of darkness now hums with life, its marble gleaming like new, its gardens blooming through the cracks, every petal singing of rebirth. Elara stirs, her cheek resting against Lucian's chest, where his heartbeat thunders steady and strong. She blinks against the golden light and finds herself wrapped in his arms no longer bound by shadow, but by life. The faint glow of magic lingers in the air, soft as dawn mist. The world has changed. Where cold had ruled, warmth now flows. Where silence had haunted, song now blooms. All around them, the castle awakens. Curtains flutter as if in applause. Harps that had long stood silent begin to hum on their own, and the portraits of Lucian's ancestors seem to smile, their eyes glinting with peace. Lucian stirs beneath her, his hand brushing back her hair with unsteady tenderness. "You stayed," he whispers, awe trembling in his voice. Elara smiles, her eyes shimmering with tears. "I promised." Outside, sunlight breaks over the forest, reaching the kingdom below. Villagers who had long feared the cursed castle look up in astonishment as its towers glow gold against the horizon. Bells begin to ring, not in mourning but in joy, and for the first time in generations the realm breathes freely, no longer under the shadow of fear but touched by love that conquered magic itself. Lucian rises slowly, helping Elara to her feet. Around them, the great hall sparkles like a temple of light. The curse that once fed on despair has been replaced by harmony. Light, laughter, and song echoing through every corridor. He looks at her, not as a savior, not as a symbol, but as the woman who gave him back his soul. And as dawn crowns the world in gold, she knows the truth of what they've become. Two hearts that broke the darkness and taught a kingdom how to love again. The castle bells ring across the valley, not in warning but in celebration. The people gather below, staring in wonder at the sight of their once feared prince, no longer cloaked in mystery or shadow, but standing proudly beside his queen. Lucian's crown glimmers like sunlight on water, yet his gaze never leaves Elara. She stands at his side in a gown of white and gold, her hair kissed by morning light, her presence radiating calm strength. The whispers of monster and curse have faded into silence, replaced by reverent awe. When they step forward to the balcony, a hush falls. Then, one by one, the villagers bow, not out of fear but respect. Lucian lifts Elara's hand, his voice deep and steady as he speaks to the kingdom. Fear built walls between us. Love tore them down. The crowd erupts in cheers. Children laugh. Flowers rain from the balconies. The air feels lighter, as if the land itself has exhaled after centuries of holding its breath. Together, they rebuild not only the castle but the kingdom's heart. Elara opens the gates to the poor and forgotten. Lucian grants freedom to the oppressed who once suffered under his family's cursed rule. The once dark throne becomes a place of light, ruled by two hearts that understand pain, mercy, and hope. At night, when the stars rise, Lucian still looks at her with the quiet wonder of a man who knows what he almost lost. Elara rests her head on his shoulder, her voice soft against the quiet. "We were never Beauty and Beast. We were just broken souls learning how to love." He smiles, the kind of smile that once seemed impossible, and the world feels whole again. Their story becomes legend, told not as a tale of terror, but of redemption. A reminder that no curse is too dark, no heart too scarred, and no love too impossible. Because in the end, it was not magic that saved them. It was love, brave enough to see the monster and gentle enough to stay. Click on the subscription button to watch more stories.